Hello, and welcome to the Quality Control Staff presentation that addresses the acceptance and continuance of engagements component of the firm's QC system. My name is Lynette Kleindienst, and I'm an assistant in the PCOB's Office of the Chief Auditor. Today's staff presentation is one in a series of staff presentations that address the requirements of QC 1000, the PCOB's new standard on quality control that will take effect on December 15th, 2025. Given the intent of this staff presentation is to focus on only one of the components of the firm's QC system, we will not be discussing all of the nuances of the standard and related amendments. Therefore, I encourage participants to read the adopting release in order to gain a more complete understanding of the new standard and related amendments, and explore the other implementation resources that have been issued to date, including a staff presentation and staff guidance document that provide an in-depth overview of QC 1000 and guidance for firms about how to comply with the standard. All of this can be found on the PCOB's website. Before we get started, I'll state our standard disclaimer. The views expressed are offered in my capacity as staff of the PCOB's Office of the Chief Auditor, but they are my own and do not necessarily reflect the views of the board as a whole, any individual board members, or other PCOB staff. In our staff presentation on the firm's system of quality control and overview of QC 1000, we briefly covered 8 integrated components of the firm's QC system that are required to be included in a firm's design of its QC system. These components are consistent with other quality management standards and are presented on the slide. Today, we will be focusing on the acceptance and continuance of engagements component, the engagement circled on the chart in red. Acceptance and continuance of engagements is an aspect of a firm's compliance and risk management process. Each firm, depending on its nature and circumstances, may approach acceptance and continuance of engagements differently. The acceptance and continuance of engagements process assists the firm in mitigating reputational, business, and litigation risk. The quality objectives of a firm is required to establish for this component stress the importance of focusing the acceptance and continuance of engagement process on the firm's ability to perform an engagement in accordance with applicable professional and legal requirements, and focus on 2 areas. The first is the judgments about whether to accept or continue an engagement. The second relates to the terms of the engagement. Before we dive into the quality objectives for this component, I would like to remind everyone that the quality objectives we discussed today are required to be established by the firm. QC 1000 specifies required quality objectives for each of the 6 components to which the risk assessment process applies. Quality objectives are a defined term in Appendix A of QC 1000. They are defined as the desired outcomes in relation to the components of the QC system to be achieved by the firm. The first quality objective covers the firm's judgment about whether to accept or continue an engagement. These judgments should be made as part of or before performing the preliminary engagement activities. Preliminary engagement activities, which are activities the auditor should perform at the beginning of the audit, are described in AS 2101. Such activities include determining the compliance with the independence and ethics requirements, and establishing an understanding of the terms of the audit engagement with the audit committee. As discussed later, the decision to continue an engagement occurs throughout the engagement. However, this quality objective specifies that the initial judgments are made as part of or before performing preliminary engagement activities. The firm's ability to perform the engagement in accordance with applicable professional and legal requirements includes considerations of the firm's independence and permissibility of services. As a reminder, applicable professional and legal requirements is a defined term in paragraph A2 of Appendix A to QC 1000. Under PCOB standards, the firm cannot accept an engagement unless it is independent and the services are permissible. This includes when services are permissible when obtaining audit committee pre-approval when required. The firm's policies for acceptance and continuance in areas of independence, permissibility of services, and pre-approval relate to and to some extent overlap with the ethics and independence component. The requirements in the ethics and independence component more generally address the ongoing evaluation of compliance with applicable professional and legal requirements relating to the independence of the firm personnel, and others subject to such requirements. Access to company information and personnel. The firm's ability to perform an engagement in accordance with applicable professional and legal requirements depends on the firm's ability to obtain information from the company and gain access to individuals at the company who can respond to the firm's inquiries. For example, the firm would need to consider whether there is restricted or limited access to company information or personnel. This may be due to language differences, physical location, or local law restrictions that impair the firm's ability to perform the engagement in accordance with applicable professional and legal requirements. The firm would need to determine whether such restrictions or limited access could be overcome. It is also important for a firm to have the right resources available so that the engagement can be performed in accordance with applicable professional and legal requirements. This includes the availability of resources either internal or external to the firm. As a reminder, resources include the availability of resources like the following, either external or internal to the firm. Firm personnel or other participants with competence to perform procedures, for example, industry experience or experience with new or specialized accounting pronouncements that apply to the company, as well as sufficient availability to meet the audit timing requirements. Engagement partners with sufficient capacity and competence relevant to the engagement. This may include experience in the company's industry or with auditing a particular transaction or type of account that the engagement would require. This could include specialists such as actuaries or financial asset valuation specialists. The firm may need to consider whether they have access to the appropriate specialist. Specialists could be either firm personnel or individuals external to the firm. Engagement quality reviewers with the relevant competence, independence, integrity, and objectivity relative to the engagement, or technology to be used in the performance of the engagement, such as technology for testing the implementation and effectiveness of automated processes, as well as intellectual resources needed in the performance of the engagement, for example, industry-specific audit programs. The firm's ability to perform engagements in accordance with applicable professional and legal requirements may also be affected by other factors associated with providing professional services in the particular circumstances. In order for the firm to make appropriate judgments about whether to accept or continue an engagement, the firm needs to obtain sufficient information about the nature and circumstances of the engagement. For example, the nature of the company and the environment in which it operates, and the integrity and ethical values of the company, including its management and audit committee. This information is relevant because it can help identify potential risks to performing the engagement. They may result in the firm not being able to perform the engagement in accordance with applicable professional and legal requirements. The nature and circumstances of the engagement may, for example, reveal the need for specialized expertise that the firm does not have. As another example, a firm deciding whether to accept a multi-location engagement where the significant subsidiary is located in a country that the firm does not have an affiliate or network partner may need to evaluate whether it can perform the engagement in accordance with applicable professional and legal requirements. Further, a lack of management integrity may affect the reliability of the company's accounting records. Designing and implementing appropriate policies and procedures that direct and standardize the collection and evaluation of information about the nature and circumstances of the engagement and the integrity and ethical values of the company can help a firm to consistently make appropriate judgments about whether to accept or continue an engagement. These can include policies and procedures, for example, that require evaluating the nature of the company and the environment in which it operates and documenting such evaluation. Could include reviewing public information about management and audit committee members from, for example, management and board memo bios on the company's website and proxy statement, social media platforms, and press releases. This could include considering the firm's relevant history with the company. For example, difficulty in obtaining information or access or disagreements over accounting principles or judgmental areas of the audit. Obtaining and considering the results of background checks and conducting incremental acceptance and continuance procedures and/or obtaining additional approvals when engagement or potential engagement meets certain criteria. For example, if the company has a specific risk profile or is within a certain industry. Information obtained during the firm's acceptance and continuance process about the nature and circumstances of the engagement and the integrity of management and the audit committee would in many cases be relevant when planning and performing the engagement. The final quality objective in the acceptance and continuance of engagements component is that the terms of the engagement, including the objective of the engagement and responsibilities of the firm and management, are consistent with applicable professional and legal requirements and understood by the firm and the company. This quality objective retains the concept in current QC 20, paragraph 16, of having policies and procedures regarding obtaining an understanding with the company about the engagement. Achieving this objective should minimize the risk of misunderstandings regarding the nature and scope of the engagement and any limitations associated with it. Next, we'll move on to the specified quality response in the acceptance and continuance of engagements component. Before we discuss the specified quality response in the acceptance and continuance component, I'd like to highlight a few reminders about specified quality responses in general. In addition to the quality responses that firms design on their own through the risk assessment process, QC 1000 also includes specified quality responses. Specified quality responses are mandated policies and procedures that apply in some cases to all firms and in other cases only to firms with a larger PCAOB audit practice. These specified quality responses are not intended to be comprehensive. Consequently, the specified quality responses alone are not sufficient to enable the firm to achieve all established quality objectives. Firms are required to include their own quality responses as well. Both the specified quality responses and the quality responses the firm designs and implements on its own are critical in addressing the firm's quality risks. One last important point is that designing and implementing appropriate quality responses, that is, the firm's policies and procedures, standardize the firm's actions and can help a firm to consistently comply with applicable professional and legal requirements. There is one specified quality response in the acceptance and continuance of engagement components, and it is mandatory for all firms. The firm's policies and procedures have to address situations in which the firm becomes aware of information subsequent to accepting or continuing an engagement that could have caused the firm to decline such an engagement had that information been known prior to the acceptance or continuance. Also, a firm is deemed aware of information when any partner, shareholder, member, or other principal of the firm first becomes aware of such information. This is consistent with how the term aware is used elsewhere in the standard. Depending on the circumstances, appropriate responses may include such actions as consulting with legal counsel or others within the firm to determine if the firm is able to continue the engagement, discussing the information with management and the audit committee to determine if the firm is able to continue the engagement, including this information in the auditor's risk assessment procedures so that any additional risks are responded to during the audit, and withdrawing from the engagement or notifying appropriate regulatory authorities as required under applicable professional and legal requirements. However, the standard does not specify that these are the required responses. We have now covered the quality objectives and specified quality responses in the acceptance and continuance of engagement component. Before we wrap up today's staff presentation, I just wanted to remind everyone of our QC implementation webpage located on the PCOB's website. We continue to update it as we develop additional implementation resources. These include a staff presentation of an overview of QC 1000, as well as staff guidance documents covering aspects of QC 1000 and the related amendments to AS 2901. The QC implementation webpage also includes a phone number and form for contacting the PCOB regarding standards-related inquiries. If you subscribe to PCOB News, you will receive a notification when the page is updated with new resources. For more information on the standard and related amendments, please see PCAOB Release Number 2024-005 on the PCOB's website. Thank you for listening and have a great day.